I'm very happy because these guys have made it into an event, right? Serpedia and ISW, these guys have made it into an event, and I think that's what is necessary, the most necessary thing right now, because that's how we should convey our, that's how intangible and tangible heritage should, reach people. By making these events, people will look and they'll be curious, "Arey, what is this?" and everything. So that kind of thing. So first of all, I'm very happy because these guys have made it into a real, like a thing. So yeah, so we'll start with the introduction. I'll introduce myself. My name is Ashwin Chitale. I'm a student of History and Geography. I believe that History and Geography is the study of space and time. So I'm very interested in these kind of fields and basically humanities. I'm currently doing my Masters in Philosophy from SP College. I've done my Masters in Indology from TIMAVI, that is Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapit, 2 years ago. And my main interest is ancient Indian history basically, that is before 12th century. The thing is, I'm interested in Gothic architecture or Western English architecture because I'm interested in medieval European history. So that's how my interest developed in Gothic architecture, and I just started looking if there are any structures or monuments within Pune city, that resembles or has influence of Gothic architecture style on it, and I found many. So there are many monuments like Mandai, there is this Ray Market or Mandai thing. Then there is Deccan College. There are lots of Gothic architecture influenced buildings in Pune, but these 3 to 4 buildings are in clusters. So I kind of came up with this idea of Gothic Pune walk. This is my 8th walk, Gothic Pune. This is my 8th Gothic Pune walk. I've done this walk before with Serpedia guys only. So yeah, that's pretty much it. First of all, I would just like to read out something. So about India Heritage Walk. This is India Heritage. We are doing this activity under India Heritage Walk Festival. So IHWF is India's largest heritage walk festival. It spans over 65 cities and offer you experience from across sectors such as historical sites, culinary hideouts, nature parks, Insta meets, photo walks, among many more. Then beyond walks, ISW also organizes discussion on cultural heritage called Baithaks. It's a very nice word, Baithak. So the festival is an award-winning undertaking powered by Serpedia, an open online source on the arts, cultures and heritage of India. You can find out more about this whole ventures on their website. So yeah, now about our sponsors, you can see the sponsors are there on the standee. But anyway, this rendition of the festival has been possible by the generous support of our sponsors like UNESCO, NMDC, Airbnb and Tata Technologies. So that's pretty much it. And I urge you to take photos and upload it on social media sites and tag Serpedia, tag ISWF, you can tag Ashwin. So I had this, created this company Ashwin Heritage 3 years ago. So we are partnered with Serpedia. We are very, very small, but that's why these guys are great, because they are giving us opportunities to connect with people and connect with such organizations and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So you can tag us and just like I said, they've made it into an event. So it's our responsibility to convey it to people and to let them know that these kind of activity also are happening in the city. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll start, that was my introduction basically, and we'll start with this building. Then we're going to General Post Office. Then we'll proceed to Pune Archives. Then we'll go to O.L. David Synagogue. So these 4 monuments are there in today's walk. So I would like to know what you guys do from Europe. You should know.
I grew up in Costa Rica, so I'm not really sure.
Oh, okay. So does anyone know what Gothic means?
What actually has 2 references. One is the languages used
Right.
prior to English, Indo-European, I guess.
Okay.
And the second is the 12th to 16th century architecture style
Right.
used by the Europeans.
But who are the Goths?
They came from France.
Okay, France.
The Scots was a dynasty who built this kind of an architecture.
Okay, then what about Ostrogoths?
Scandinavian region.
Right, okay. So we have France, we have Visigoths and we have Scandinavia, right? So the Goths were East Germanic people. They came from East Germany. We basically before 3rd century, there were no mention of Goths, like prominently. They were just one of the many tribes in Europe. And the thing with Hellenistic and Roman period is that whoever is non-Roman, whichever tribe is non-Roman or non-classical, non-Hellenistic, non-Greek, they used to call them barbar, barbarians, right? Barbarians. Do you know why? It's a very interesting story behind that. Because, yeah, please go ahead.
Every time they heard somebody speaking, they
Exact.
thought it sounded like bar, bar, bar,
Yeah.
bar, bar, bar.
So our language is the classical language. Every other language is like bar, 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 bar. That's why barbarians, right? So even non-classical, non-Greek or non-Roman, they used to call them barbarians. So this Gothic architecture or these Goths.
Was it Barbarian or was it Berber? B-E-R-B-E-R.
Yeah, some say that etymology is connected with that. Berber means the desert, the people living in the desert, right, in Arabian desert. But it's essentially Barbar. It's not a Berber thing. So maybe they got their name Berber from Barbar itself, maybe. So this thing is there. Now in 4th century there was this emperor called Constantine. You know Constantine.
Yeah.
So what he did was he shifted the Roman capital from Rome to Constantinople. Constantinople. He created a city on his own name, called it Constantinople, which is today's in Turkey. So what happened was Roman power shifted from west to east. So the whole Roman Empire was divided in Eastern Latin versus Western Greeks. Eastern Latin versus Western Greeks. Sorry. Western Latin versus Eastern Greeks. So sorry. So Western Latin. So these people were, again, they divided on the basis of ethnicity and everything. So what happened was many tribes tried to conquer the Roman territory. Yeah, many tribes. So there was this Huns or Hunas. Yeah, they came from the east. And from the west there were these Goths. So Goths were again divided into two types of, I would like to call it clans, or like she said, dynasties, Ostrogoths and Visigoths. Yeah. So the Visigoths were the western, they captured basically the western part of Roman Empire, and the Ostrogoths, they captured the eastern part of the Roman Empire with the help of Hunas. So they attacked and they sacked cities and they destroyed the structures and monuments and everything, what we call the classical architecture or the Greek architecture, and they built some monuments of their own style. So they didn't necessarily call it this is Gothic architecture. They just kept on building structures and monuments. Later on we call it's a retrospective. History is always retrospective. I think everything is retrospective, right, in that term. So whatever we see today, the architecture built by them or the architecture style introduced by them is Gothic. So there was this guy Giorgio Vasari from Renaissance period. He was an architect and polymath. He calls Gothic as a very dark and dull type of structure, because he refers to Goths as barbaric, because of course they were in a sense barbaric. So whenever you like in today we use this term Gothic, and we generally refer to it as a very something kind of a dark and dull, Gothic outfit, Gothic music, right? So there was this thing that the barbarian concept is there. So they are thinking that whatever it is non-classical or non-Greek or non-Roman, it is very sturdy, it is very dull, it is very dark. That's it. That's why they called it, that's why they referred to Gothic architecture as something very dull and dark. Of course that concept changed with time. So basically these Goths destroyed the buildings and created some monuments of their own, Visigoths, Ostrogoths and everything. Now about the word architect, do you know from where the word architect comes? Architecture actually. Yeah, art means?
Come on.
Okay. And then the word remains texture. So architecture word is made up of two words, arc and tecton. Tecton. It means, tecton means building or structure. So tecton, so it basically translates as top builder. Arch is top builder. So what top architect is top builder, and what he does is architecture. Basically building stuff. Yeah. So this is the basically etymology of two words. So basically this whole Gothic architecture is developed in so basically they in 4th century they started building this stuff. They started building these monuments which were very dark and dull and everything. So gradually it started developing. Gradually as the Franks, the Teutons and the Saracens are the Arabian, basically European have this name Saracens for any Arabian person or any Arabian tribe. So the Saracens they took control of European, some regions of course, and there were constant fights from 5th century to 15th century, the Renaissance period, constant fights, sacking, and it is called migration period. From 5th century to 7th century CE, it is called the migration period, because people didn't know where should we live, because everything, there was a chaos and everything. So people started migrating to different regions. That's also another important factor because of which cultural exchange happened, or the architecture style that, conveyed through many regions and everything. So what happened was these Goths also carried their style with them. They built these structures, they built these monuments, and after 1,000 years, it started developing. Within those 1,000 years, it started developing. So we all know that these Goths were, and Europe was completely merged in this thing, internal civil wars and everything. Until and unless in 8th century, there was this common enemy for them, for whole of Europe actually. Can you guess? No. Which was the reason that in 10th century or 9th century, whole of Europe united and went to crusades? So common enemy for them was Islam. So they had to forget their enmity and had to unite and go and fight for Holy Land, right? So after crusades, the whole thing, the whole architecture again developed because it had influence of Islamic architecture on it, right? And so basically this Gothic architecture is divided into, like, we can divide it on two bases. First one is the chronological, of course. So from 12th century we call it early Gothic, 12th century to 13th century. The best example of this kind of architecture is the Notre Dame de Paris. It was built in 1160, I guess, yeah, 1161. So I'll be talking about Gothic architectural elements and everything, but I'm just giving you an idea of what Gothic and architecture and the whole process is basically. Then there is late Gothic architecture, that is from 13th century to 14th century. Then again from each of these styles and each of these chronological orders also have their own specific characteristics. I'll be talking about that. So in case of early Gothic architecture, there are ribbed walls. Ribbed walls. So basically what they did is they constructed these pillars. A typical structure of a church, right? There is this passage, then there is this church, a dome or a spire or a tower. Yeah. So they constructed these pillars. Now these pillars had to be supported from the pillars were basically initially created for supporting the structure. But what about the ceiling? So they started building these ribs. So initially there were 6 ribbed vault. So basically there are these pillars, right? Then one rib goes from here and so basically from second pillar it connects with first pillar. So there were these intersections and there was this central spine rib. So initially it was 6 ribbed because it looked like 6 shaped whatever you call it. So hexagram basically. So 6 ribbed vault was there. Later they changed it. They removed the central spine or central rib. It became 4 ribbed. So this transition happened in the early Gothic architecture phase. Then there is late Gothic. There was in 13th century. Now they started adding it a rose window. So basically, I don't think you can see. Yeah, can you see those circular shaped windows? They are basically rose windows. So they started, decorating it with tinted glass. So complete different kind of light inside and everything. So that kind of light and shadow play was there because of, so this type of transition happened in 13th century, late Gothic. Then there is another architectural style, flamboyant Gothic. Sorry, rayonnant Gothic. Rayonnant Gothic is in 14th century, rayonnant Gothic. So the word rayonnant means radiating. So from a point, it looks like something has exploded. So that kind of motifs and that kind of decorations were there on that specific buildings of that architectural style. Then there is fourth one in 14th century onwards. They came up with this flamboyant Gothic. Flamboyant. Flamboyant means flame-like. So every decorations and everything motifs were like flamboyant. Now there are, of course, this is about the chronological classification. Now we come to regional classification. So in a very crude sense, so first of all, you can never classify architecture or architecture styles like that. This is whatever. This is there are influence and there are cultural exchange and there are exchange of ideas. Always it is there. So you can't really draw a line when it comes to architecture. And it's not like architecture is created in one night. कि आज से हम इसे Gothic architecture बोलेंगे. It's not like that, right? It evolves over time, and after it we call it Gothic architecture in retrospect. So basically it was divided in Eastern European Gothic architecture, Western European Gothic architecture, Northern European Gothic architecture, Southern European Gothic architecture. Now if you look at Spanish monuments, Hispania, so they are very different in style. Yeah, they're very tall and they're very huge and they're very intricately carved, something like that. And there are two divisions, French Gothic and English Gothic. So the French we know French like to decorate. They almost decorate everything. They do it with their food. They do it with anything that they can possibly. So they like to decorate. So French Gothic architecture is very famous for their intricate carving and everything. And English, they are about, so basically the French are about curves. But I always say this, it's a very in a very funny way. But it is there that British are about cuts and lines. They don't like to this thing. So yeah, so French are all about curves and how the more curvy or the more decorative, the better. So that kind of thing is there. So English Gothic architecture and French Gothic architecture. So whatever we are seeing today is essentially English Gothic architecture because the British brought it here. And it's not clear, or I'm not claiming anything that the builders of this whole thing, they knew what they're doing. I don't think so. Or maybe they did. I don't know. So, but we have to look at it as a Gothic architecture because they had some plan, right? They had to follow some structure, they had to follow some architecture. That's why we're calling it Gothic. So this type of monument, they don't really go into any kind of, like the types that I said, flamboyant or revenant. They don't come in under any kind of architectural style, but we just have to look for the elements. Then you can say, this specific element is from flamboyant Gothic, this specific element from revenant Gothic. So we'll talk about this church, we'll talk about the history of this church, but first we'll talk about the appearance of this church, okay? If you look at this church carefully, it's very sturdy. It's not a, it's not a very good looking kind of church, but it's a very sturdy because that reminds us of that Gothic architectural style. Very sturdy, very dull, very dark, right? And basically they were barbarians, so they don't have any system of sorts, and no architecture style is really developed in their times. So that kind of influence we can see here. Then can you see those structures on the outside? Yeah. So do you know what they're called? Yeah. Do you know what's the etymology of that word? It's very interesting. So gargoyle was I think you must know. Again, this is a Scandinavian legend. And that creature was called Gorgia. That went to east, that concept, that legend went to east, become Gojira. Again comes to west, become Godzilla. So there was this creature, and again same typical story, some hero from some very small place or very small town defeats that creature, typical story. And another etymology that the scholars suggest is that the function of that specific architectural element is to drain out the water. So whenever the water is drained, it makes sound, gor, 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 gor. That's why it is called gargoyle. It's another simple etymological explanation for this. So just have a look at the whole architecture and everything. So you can see the arches, right? Now there is another architectural element called flying buttress. Flying buttress. Yeah. Can you see those columns outside? Yeah. They are basically flying buttress. They are not the very, very particular or very, how can I say? You don't necessarily call them flying buttress, but a flying buttress is something that supports the structure from outside, right? So generally it is very big because again, Gothic means sturdy. They don't know what they are creating, so they need to construct something and they need to support it from outside because inside you need to be there. So you can't construct something and support it from the inside. So that's basically flying buttress. Later what they did is influence from Roman architecture and Greek architecture. Just a history part of this whole thing. So initially, this whole camp area was really a military camp. In 1818 what happened? Does anyone know? 1818 is a very important year for
English defeated Marathas.
Exactly, the third Anglo-Maratha war. English defeated the Peshwas, right? So they had established their military camp or Chhauni is what we call camp today, right? Chhauni, camp. So they built it in this area, the whole thing. So that's why the quarters and everything, the monuments that they've built, they are in Gothic style or they're in, their style because they had to feel familiar with, as if they're in Britain or everything, yeah. So basically they built these monuments in their own style, and there was this whole military camp in this area. The war was fought at various places, Ganeshkind, Vanavdi, Ghorpadi and everywhere. So this kind of thing was there. Now these people were living in this area. So in 1840 there was this guy Thomas Kerr. He was an officer in this region. He requested the crown that there is only one church, St. Mary's Church. That's the oldest church in Pune. So it's not in Gothic, it is essentially in Gothic style, but it is renovated. So it's not the original structure is not there. So there was this only one church there, St. Mary's Church. So he requested the crown that we should build another church. And in 1867, Thomas Burdell Frere, who was the governor of Bombay, he laid the foundation of this. There is the foundation stone. You can have a look from that gate. There is the foundation stone there, and it says Thomas Burdell Frere built this in 1867. And 12 years later, it was completed. And in that time, it was estimately roughly 90,000 rupees were spent on this building of this church. Yeah? And in 1900, there was this fire in this church, and it had a very beautiful rose window. So it kind of damaged, the fire kind of damaged it, and it collapsed and the whole structure was damaged, but later it was renovated. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the history. You can have a look from that gate as well and look at the structure, and if you have any doubt, shoot. Yeah. Then we'll proceed to Pune Archives building. Influenced by Roman and Greco-Roman architecture, so what they did is this flying buttress was there. They started carving arches in it, so it looked like a hallway. Yeah, that we'll see in this thing, Old David Synagogue. It is there. Influence of that Greco-Roman style. So this is basically flying buttress. It is attached from the outside, and there are arches. Now I'll tell the story about arches when we go to Pune Archives. Sorry. काय आवाज आहे? अच्छा, right. Yeah.
सगळे शब्द आम्हाला खूप नवीन आहेत.
Okay, I'll just talk slowly then. So basically what I was saying is, I'll talk about arches later. So this is the thing with arches. What is an arch called in Marathi? Kaman. Arch comes from Latin word arcus. It means bow, dhanushya. In Persian, dhanushya is called kaman. And Marathi मध्ये Persian मधनं word आला kaman. So you know how this bow and arches is created because of the curve and everything. So it's a very interesting story. The journey of the words itself is also very interesting. Like I said about Godzilla and the whole thing, Barber and Goths as well. So you can see the architecture basically. So you can just have a look from there and just come back, and then I'll tell you the history of this specific monument. Then we'll proceed to the next one. On that side, I'm so sorry I forgot, because what happened was last time they were renovating that place. So the foundation stone was kept here. Now they've attached it there. So yeah, you can see it when we go there. Two things I wanted to say. First thing is gargoyles. So we just come here so that we don't get in our way. So gargoyles are there in every culture. So the idea is hybrid animal, basically hybrid creature. In Indian culture or in Indian architecture, we have a gargoyle. The name is of course different, but hybrid creature. Do you know what's the name for hybrid creature in Indian architectural context? Vyal? Vyal or Yali is basically many creatures that are permutation combination of animals. So basically there are eagle and lion, similar to griffin or griffon, whatever it is. Then another thing is we call it Shardul, half elephant, half lion, half elephant, half tiger, half human, half tiger. So these kind of things are there in every culture, because at the very foundation of this whole concept is fascination towards nature. And our mind is very, interested in permutation combination. Mix kar do sabko ek dusre mein. So we have that kind of, inclination or fascination towards nature. That's why we do it in this way. So if you go to Deccan College, there are these stars. So on the right tower, there is a very beautiful gargoyle. It's half bat and half dog. It's really beautiful. If you have a chance, if you go there, just see it. And another thing was this trefoil. So can you see that arch or that this thing? The entrance, can you see that motif with the three-fold basically? It's called trefoil. So they were initially the design was of trefoil. It represents Trinity, right? Holy Father, God, and Son of God basically. So basically that trefoil represented Trinity. Later on it developed and it became four-fold foil, or five-fold foil, that kind of thing. So later they misinterpreted it as a flower, but it's not really a flower. It's a trefoil. It represents something, and it has a very important symbolic reference to it. Yeah. So we'll just go and see the foundation stone from that gate. Then we'll go to General Post Office. It's just there. Yeah. So let's